Morning, everybody. I'm here at the house. It was a little too cold to go do the job I was working on in Springfield, so I got the day off. And it's a pretty important day. I'm actually about to start the first pier on my house. I can only do one because this is where all the measurements will be based off of. Once this is all set in concrete, set in stone, literally. Then I can start pulling numbers off of it and just make sure everything gets built nice and square. And, it's on a hillside, so I have to work with the level of the ground. And there's a lot going on here, but one step at a time, it'll all get done. I've prepped some of this, so let me show y'all what's going on. I kind of got ahead of this, and I was like, I should probably record it. Let me flip this around. So I built a form yesterday. This is a 1.5 wide, 1.5 wide hole, 1.5 deep, and I got 2x6 form. I still need to level this form, so what'll happen is this will actually come up to counter with the hill there. But then I've got 2-foot sticks of rebar, 1/2-inch rebar. I've made an X on either side. So there's in total 8 pieces of rebar in there. And then, just as another measure, when I got my post here, I painted it because I've noticed in Missouri, man, that they don't really like to bury posts, and I'm guessing it's because of the moisture. Even the treated ones rot out. Honestly, the way I'm doing this, it's how I want to do it. I want to set the post in. If it rots, I can always fix it later. But right now, this makes my life easier, and it makes it super sturdy. So what I'm going to do though is I painted those so that they'll last a little longer in the concrete. They are treated, and then I drilled a hole in it. So as kind of an anchoring system, I got a 1-foot-long piece of rebar here. 1/2 inch. I'll hammer that in that hole to where it sticks out both sides of it. And that's kind of my anchor. Not that anything would pull the post out, but let's say the bottom of the post does start to rot a little bit. What would happen is, without that piece of rebar in there, is the post would want to sink down into the concrete as things started to soften up. So what that does is it just kind of locks my post in. It can't go up or down. Once that concrete's set around that piece of rebar, it's stuck right there. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. So next step is I'm gonna hammer that in, level this. I've already got my bucket, my mixer. There's 800 pounds of concrete in the truck. I went and got that this morning. About to pull the 4-wheeler over here. It is probably gonna take about half of that, at least 5 bags. I'm hoping that's it, because I got 9 of these to do. But this is the first one. This is actually the first board. This post is going to be the first board in my house going up. So it's kind of an exciting day for me. It's a little cold out here, but whatever. The sun's out, it'll warm up through the day, and the sooner I get this done, the sooner it can start setting up and drying. But I will add to this as I go. I can't really set the phone up out here. There's nothing but trees right here, and I can't do any of this with one hand. So I'll show you guys once I get like the post in there. And I've already done videos on mixing concrete and setting post, really, where I was able to set the camera up. So if y'all want to look at that, you're gonna have to go back in the old videos, because I'm not gonna record. I have a lot of concrete to do. I'm not gonna record it every time. It just takes too much longer. So I'm gonna get after it. Hopefully we can get some of this good afternoon sun to dry this concrete, and from here I can start measuring and digging all the holes. I'll get back to it. Okay, so I got that guy leveled up and got the rest of my supplies over here. Got 4 bags, 80-pound bags of concrete. Got the 4-wheeler leaned up on a tree so it doesn't roll down the hill on me. That's an important step of this. Couple gallons of rainwater. I collect rainwater out here, so for projects like this, I don't have to get into my drinking water. That's why it looks like piss. Don't worry, it's just leaves. Not mixing with my piss, man. That'd be gross. Bucket for mixing, mixer for mixing. Like I said, if you want to see how I do this, then all the tips on setting a post, then you can check out another different video. Just to kind of explain why I'm doing things and what's going on here. This is the back of the house. This is going to be the back center post. Part of the reason I picked this spot is because originally I was going to do a dog pen here, and this was going to be the back corner. And the dog pen was going to go, you know, up over there where those posts are. And then I decided, well, this is a perfect spot to build a small cabin. So I'll build this and then get the dog pen squared away. So I utilized a hole I already dug and kind of used that as a starting point. So I'm mostly squared up. That's scrap lumber. So the form's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. It goes under the house. But I'm mostly squared up on it. And the purpose of the string, other than to, you know, give me one good center line, is when I put my post in here, I have something, a reference point, a flat spot that I can actually set my flat post against. And then obviously you want to kind of be center of the hole. I'm going to this side of the string because it gives me just that much extra to get away from this tree. I'm going to cut the lower branch off of this, and actually, you know, a lot of people probably wouldn't do that, but I'm going to leave the tree hanging over the house. In the summer, it'll keep it so much cooler. And I'm going to build this to where I'm building it so that if a tree falls, it doesn't destroy my house. One of the benefits to my line of work is even if I take some damage building under a tree, I know how to fix it all. So I don't worry about all that stuff too much. I just want to make sure. This is my least favorite part about building, is laying all this out, getting everything perfect and level and square, and then digging and concrete like this whole section. And I have to do this 9 times. It's not as tedious from the first one. It gets a little bit simpler. You got something you can pull measurements off of, but that's another thing I wanted to bring up. If you're going to do something like this, especially something, you know, 24 by 16, something of pretty decent size, don't go try to dig all your fucking holes and when you're out in no man's land like this. Like, I mean, there's no structure to measure off of. There's nowhere to get numbers, get square, and get any of it right. Now, I've heard of some ways to do that, but the best way I've learned, especially being by myself out here, is when I get this first post in, and it's a square post, I can then get out here with strings, put a screw in the post, and pull around a corner, which actually gives me, you know, exactly my straight line. And then I come back with a square, make sure everything's straight, and I can move from this point. It gives me somewhere to find, like, to actually measure from, so that everything can turn out the right numbers. So that's a suggestion I have if you're going to be, you know, ever taking on something like this, is don't get, oh, well, digging's free, and then go dig all 9 of your holes, because chances are they're going to be, you know, off by this much. You're going to have to make the hole bigger. That takes more concrete. If you do it, I wouldn't say I'm going to do it one at a time, but if you start with one so that you have a reference point, then you can get more strings up, and it makes it all a little bit easier. So I'm at the point now where I'm going to grab a cigarette and smoke, because once I start mixing this concrete, I really can't stop. I've got to run back up to where my rainwater is whenever I run out of 2 gallons. I'd say an 80-pound bag usually takes a gallon of water roundabouts. It's best to have 2 there. And this is probably going to take about 6 bags. I'm hoping for 5. That'd just make it. This is kind of a template. Once I know exactly what all this takes, I'm doing every pier exactly the same. If anything, I won't be able to get them as deep as this hole, because there's a lot of rock out here. In my opinion, once you hit rock, I mean, nothing's going to go down. I'm on a hillside. So anyways, that's enough explanation on that. The reason I'm doing things the way I am, and why it's only 1 pier at a time right now, is just because when you're in the middle of the woods, there's literally nothing you can measure off of. So you got to start somewhere. And this is the place I'm starting, at the back of the house. So I'm pretty excited. I'm going to get this concrete poured, and I'll do a video once this post is standing, and probably after I get through these 4 bags, then I'll have a little bit of a chance to go. I got to go grab more concrete off the truck and yada yada. So I'll talk to y'all once this is closer to done. Oh, I wanted to, while I'm smoking my cigarette, talk about one more thing. Something I'm doing a little different here. One of the cool things about doing this on my own is I have no plans to follow. I know how to make my own. So generally, with terrain like this, what they would do is either bring dirt in and level this out and then build from level, or they would dig into the ground and do it kind of like a basement home, or, you know, they would make it a basement home. I don't have equipment, so I'm not doing that. It's part of the reason I'm going with posts, and it's part of the reason the posts are going into the concrete. So this is originally going to get built like a deck. That's a 5-foot post. The hole with the footer is about 2 foot. So 3 foot of that post is going to stick out. That is going to be pretty well ground level of the house out here at the end of the hill. And then because of the hill, at the other end of this, the post gets shorter and shorter and shorter. I'm going to try to be at least a foot off the ground back there. So basically, you know, this is going to get built to where the floor is about chest high to me. It makes things a little complicated. You have to run on level a lot, but one thing I don't have to do is come in here and clear this whole thing, buy dirt, do all of that. It gets built, and it's going to be cool. You're going to have a really, you know, I forgot that's pointed at me. You're going to have a really awesome view, you know, out this back window, and you're, you know, 5 foot off the ground. So that's the plan here. I wanted to explain that in case anybody sees this and they're like, oh man, you didn't do any excavating on that. And it's like, no, not really. And I'm using the 4-wheeler to kind of make some drainage spots so water doesn't build up here. And I've built enough big decks that I realized too, as far as loose dirt, by the time I work around every one of these footers, and by the time I get all of the subfloor built, the joists and all the beams and everything put in, I'm going to have stomped and walked around on this whole footprint so much that I promise the ground's going to be good and tight and pushed in. It won't wash away. If you've ever built a deck in the summer, by the end of it, there's no grass where you were. Most of the time it all gets stomped down you're down to nice tight dirt anyway. So that's my plan here. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, but I got to work with what I got. So I figured that was worth explaining too. Later. Okay. All right. I got the post in. So another reason I did this top 6 inches here, and I actually ended up letting it self level and leaving about 3/4 inches below my form, because that was 6 bags. It's a lot of concrete. I bought 10 today, so I still got to go get more in order to do another one of these, but 6 is a good amount there. It'll be nice and level, and it gives it about 5 inches of concrete up at the top. The other reason I did it this way is because one of the reasons why posts rot off is because the concrete that they get put into, say they're doing a fence or something, the concrete they get put into ends up being level with the ground, or below the ground's even worse. Then all the water pulls up on top of your concrete. So the other reason I'm coming up with this is so that as water comes down the hill, it'll hit the concrete, go around it, and continue down the hill, and it won't get up here to my post. Not to mention, then I painted the post, and I will probably paint this concrete and repaint the post before it's all said and done. But for right now, I just got to get a solid place to measure from. So that was just another thing I wanted to explain, and it's kind of anticlimactic. I wish I could keep working on this, but I can't pull a measurement on a post that's got wet concrete on it, or I'll pull it out of level, and I just can't do anything else with this today. But at least I got it done. It was my goal to try to have this cabin done through the winter and try to have it done by spring before storm season gets here. I may or may not be able to pull that off. It's too early to tell. It is, man, what is it? Is it December yet? It's November 30th. which is good for me to video because then I can remember the day I started my house. But it's November 30th, so that gives me 3 months of winter. Call it 4, even with the crazy March we'll probably get. And then the storms will start coming in, so I may be able to pull it off. It just depends on how work goes and stuff. But either way, I'm pretty stoked about this video and happy about today. I finally got my house started. You know, once you get the ball rolling on something like this, it's a lot easier. But you know, when you know all you got to do is come out here, there's nothing to measure off of, and you've still got to find a way to place to dig a hole, and it's all digging, it's all hard work. It was pretty frustrating doing that. If I had videoed myself, y'all would have been laughing, because man, these concrete bags were not cooperating today. They were, every one of them was ripping while I was trying to pour it. So, and I got one that exploded in the back of my truck. I got to figure out how to deal with that. So anyway, one last shot of it. That is the beginning of my house, and it's got a long way to go, but it's going to be a cool place to live. Y'all take it easy.